Hi, I'm Steve Blake at Extreme, and today we're demonstrating our Extreme Summit X460 stackable switches interoperating with the Big Switch Network OpenFlow controller. So this is showing an example of how you can do virtual networking in this environment. So what we built for this demo network is a network with 3 switches, 1 core switch, and 2 edge switches. All the dark links are OpenFlow enabled links. All the dotted links are a management VLAN talking to the Big Switch controller, which is running on this MacBook here. We have 4 physical hosts, these 4 Dell laptops, and they're connected on the 2 edge switches, and they're all numbered in the same IP subnet on the same VLAN. So under normal bridging rules, they'd be able to talk to each other. What we've set up via the controller is 2 virtual networks, the red virtual network and the yellow virtual network. The hosts in each virtual network can talk to each other, but they can't talk between each other. And that's using a feature in the Big Switch controller called Big Virtual Switches. So if you're an operator sitting in front of the Big Switch controller, you don't see 2 physical edge switches, you see 2 virtual switches. What we can show is if, for example, you wanted to install a policy for host 1, say an ACL to prevent it from talking to host 3, you would do that via the controller, which would implement it into the hardware by pushing an OpenFlow flow mod to this switch. And if you were to physically move this switch to it, or physically move the host to the other switch, the flow mod would move, or the policy would move automatically. And the way that works is through OpenFlow. In other words, a packet comes from that host, it arrives on an OpenFlow-enabled port on this switch. He doesn't have any flow mods to recognize this host, so he sends a packet out message to the Big Switch controller. The Big Switch controller recognizes that's host 1, pushes flow mods to this switch with the connectivity rules as well as the policy. So this all happens automatically. You don't have to touch the switch configuration. So if you can imagine yourself in a campus environment where you have a very dynamic environment with users moving around or people changing security roles daily, under normal networking principles, you have to configure that by either renumbering the host or changing the switch config. In this model, you only have to change the configuration of the controller. The switch config never changes. Analogously, if these were VMs, the same principle would apply. The VM would move to another switch, it would be recognized, and the controller would move the policy. That's a reactive mode of control. Also, in a data center virtual environment, you may use proactive control. If you have some orchestration framework that's moving the VM, you can communicate with the Big Switch controller and proactively push all the policies to the other switch.
Awesome.